Every great story has a beginning, and sometimes that beginning is found in the shadows, far from the warmth of a welcoming fire. The story of Shaka Zulu is one such tale. He was not born a king, destined to rule from a golden throne. Instead, he was born an outsider, the son of a minor chief and a woman named Nandi. Their union was not celebrated, and Shaka and his mother were cast out. They wandered from place to place, seeking refuge, but finding only scorn and hardship. This was not a life of ease. It was a life that could have broken anyone's spirit, crushing their hope under the weight of constant rejection. But for Shaka, this challenging start to life was not an end. It was a forge. It was in these difficult years that the seeds of his future greatness were planted and watered with tears and sweat. Imagine a young boy, with no powerful father to protect him, no home to call his own. He faced taunts and loneliness every single day. But within him, a fire was growing. He watched the world around him with keen eyes, learning how people behaved, what they feared, and what they respected. He saw the weakness in the small, scattered clans that fought amongst themselves. He saw that their disunity made them vulnerable. This time of struggle taught him a powerful lesson. To survive and to thrive, one needed more than just strength. One needed a purpose, a community, and a will as strong as iron. Shaka's early life was a long, hard road, but every step prepared him for the incredible journey that lay ahead, shaping him into a leader who understood the hearts of the forgotten and the powerless. His fortunes began to change when he found a home with the Mthethwa people under the powerful chief Dingiswayo. Here, Shaka was no longer just an outcast. He was a warrior. He threw himself into training, his determination burning brighter than ever. He wasn't content to just be a good soldier, he wanted to be the best. He studied warfare, not as a set of old rules, but as a living, breathing art. He questioned everything. Why did they use long, clumsy throwing spears? Why did they wear sandals that slowed them down? His mind was always working, always looking for a better way. This wasn't just ambition, it was a deep-seated desire to prove his worth, to create a world where he and his people would never be weak or cast aside again. Shaka's rise was not an accident of fate, it was a masterpiece of human will. He earned his place not through birthright, but through courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable spirit. When Dingiswayo recognized his brilliance, Shaka was given command. He transformed his small group of warriors into a disciplined, fearsome force. Soon, news of his victory spread like wildfire across the grasslands. When his own father passed away, Shaka returned to the small Zulu clan, not as the forgotten child, but as a powerful warrior and leader. With the support of Dingiswayo, he took his rightful place as chief. This was the first step. The boy, who was once an outsider, was now a king, and his vision for a united nation was about to change the course of history forever. A house cannot stand without a strong foundation, and a nation cannot stand without unity. Shaka knew this deep in his soul. When he became chief of the Zulu clan, they were just one small group among many. He had a vision that was much, much bigger. He dreamed of a single powerful Zulu nation, a family of clans united under one purpose and one leader. But how do you take people who have been rivals for generations and make them brothers? Shaka's answer was built on three powerful pillars: discipline, loyalty, and a shared identity. He understood that to build something truly great, every single person had to feel like they were a vital part of it, from the mightiest warrior to the youngest child. The first pillar was discipline. Shaka's army, the Impi, became the heart of his new nation, and its discipline was legendary. Warriors trained constantly, enduring grueling exercises that built their strength and stamina. They learned to march for miles without complaint, to run barefoot over thorns, and to obey commands instantly and without question. This wasn't about cruelty, it was about forging a collective will. When every warrior moved as one, thought as one, and fought as one, they became something more than just a group of men. They became an unstoppable force. This discipline extended beyond the battlefield. It created a sense of order and purpose throughout the entire Zulu kingdom, making everyone feel secure and part of a well-run system. The second pillar was loyalty. Shaka didn't just command loyalty, he earned it. He made sure his warriors were the best fed, best equipped, and most respected people in the land. He rewarded bravery and skill, promoting men based on merit, not on their family name. A man could rise from the lowest ranks to become a great general if he proved his worth. This created a powerful bond between Shaka and his soldiers. They were not just fighting for a chief, they were fighting for a leader who saw their potential and believed in them. This loyalty was a two-way street. Shaka trusted his men, and in return, they gave him their unwavering devotion. This deep connection transformed an army into a brotherhood. The final pillar was a shared identity. Shaka worked to erase the old clan rivalries. He brought people from conquered tribes into the Zulu nation. Not as slaves, but as full members of the kingdom. He gave them a new identity. They were all Zulu. He created new regiments, or amabuto, where young men from different clans would live and train together. They grew up as brothers, their loyalty not to their old village, but to their regiment and to the Zulu nation as a whole. This was a brilliant way to build unity from the ground up. He created a shared culture, with common songs, dances, and ceremonies that everyone participated in. Being Zulu became a source of immense pride, a feeling of belonging to something grand and powerful. If you found Shaka Zulu's story inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more incredible tales from history. Share this video with your friends and join our community to learn more about the fascinating history of Africa and beyond. A leader can give orders, but a true leader inspires his people. Shaka was a master of inspiration. He knew that to ask men to face death, he had to give them something to believe in, something bigger than themselves. He couldn't just build an army, he had to forge a collective soul. He did this through powerful rituals, stirring speeches, and symbols that spoke directly to the heart of every warrior. He made them feel that they were not just soldiers fighting for land, but demigods walking the earth, the living embodiment of the Zulu spirit. Their purpose was glorious, their destiny was greatness, and their unity was their sacred power. Every ceremony, every song, every chant was designed to reinforce this powerful idea. Shaka's speeches were legendary. Before a battle, he would gather his impis, his voice ringing out across the assembled ranks. He spoke not just of tactics, but of honor, of courage, and of their destiny as a great people. He reminded them of their shared journey, of the hardships they had overcome together. He painted a picture of victory so vivid they could almost taste it. He made them feel invincible. These were not just words. They were fuel for the soul. He connected their individual bravery to the survival and glory of the entire Zulu nation. When they marched into battle, they did so with his words echoing in their ears, their hearts beating as one with a single, unshakable purpose: victory for the Zulu kingdom. Rituals and ceremonies were the glue that held the nation's spirit together. Shaka created elaborate festivals and gatherings that involved the entire kingdom. The most important of these was the Umkosi, or first fruits ceremony. This was a massive event that celebrated the harvest, purified the army, and reaffirmed the king's power and his spiritual connection to the nation. Warriors would display their skills in spectacular military parades, chanting songs that told the story of their victories. These ceremonies were a powerful display of unity and strength, a reminder to everyone of what they had built together. They created a shared rhythm, a collective heartbeat that pulsed through every member of the Zulu nation. Symbols were also incredibly important. The design of the shields, the colors of the ceremonial dress, and the type of feathers worn in a warrior's headdress all had meaning. A warrior's shield was not just a piece of equipment, it was a symbol of his regiment and his honor. Losing it in battle was the ultimate disgrace. Shaka created a visual language of power and belonging. When the warriors saw their comrades, adorned with the symbols of their shared identity, they felt a surge of pride and fellowship. These symbols were a constant, silent reminder that they were not alone. They were part of a magnificent and powerful family, the mighty Zulu nation, and together, there was nothing they could not achieve. Shaka was more than just a brave warrior. He was a brilliant military thinker, a grandmaster playing a continental game of chess. Before Shaka, warfare in southern Africa was often ritualistic and resulted in few casualties. It was based on throwing long, flimsy spears from a distance. Shaka saw this as inefficient and wasteful. He believed in decisive battles, in total victory. His mind was always looking for an edge, a new way of doing things that would shatter the old rules of war and guarantee success. He was an innovator who redesigned not just the weapons of his army, but the very way his soldiers thought about and conducted battle. His strategies were a blend of meticulous planning, speed, and overwhelming force. His first major innovation was in weaponry. He did away with the long throwing spear and replaced it with a short, broad-bladed stabbing spear called the ikalwa. Its name is said to come from the sound it made, as it was withdrawn from an enemy's body. This weapon forced his warriors to close with the enemy, to fight face-to-face in disciplined formations. To complement the ikalwa, he introduced a larger, stronger shield made of cowhide. This shield was not just for defense, it could be used as a weapon to hook an opponent's shield and pull them off balance. By changing these two pieces of equipment, Shaka completely revolutionized combat. He turned a long-distance shouting match into a swift, lethal and personal encounter. Next, Shaka developed a revolutionary battle tactic known as the Horns of the Buffalo, or Impondo Zankomo. This formation was simple but devastatingly effective. The army was divided into three parts. The main force, the chest or Isafuba, would engage the enemy head-on, pinning them in place. At the same time, two flanking columns, the horns or Izimpondo, would sweep around the sides, moving with incredible speed to encircle the enemy. A fourth group, the loins or Umuva, was held in reserve, ready to be deployed wherever needed or to pursue any who tried to flee. This formation required incredible discipline coordination and fast communication, all of which Shaka's army had perfected through endless training. Finally, Shaka understood the importance of logistics and speed. An army is only as good as its ability to get to the fight. He made his warriors discard their sandals and taught them to run barefoot, which made them faster and tougher. He established a network of supply depots and a system of young runner boys who could carry messages quickly across the kingdom. This meant his armies could move faster and strike with more surprise than any of their rivals. While other chiefs were still gathering their forces, Shaka's impish would already be on the march, appearing as if from nowhere to deliver a swift and decisive blow. His strategic genius was in seeing the entire picture, from the design of a spear to the speed of a messenger, and making every piece work together in perfect harmony. War is not only fought on the battlefield, it is also fought in the mind. Shaka Zulu was, honestly, a master of this hidden art. He knew that fear could be a more powerful weapon than any spear. He cultivated an aura of invincibility around himself and his army, using psychology to demoralize his enemies long before the first blow was struck. His goal was to win the battle before it even began, to make his opponents so terrified that their will to fight would just, well, crumble. The sight and sound of the Zulu were carefully crafted to be a symphony of fear, an overwhelming spectacle of unity, power, and inhuman discipline that would shock and awe all who witnessed it. Imagine you are a chief of a small clan, and you hear that Shaka's army is approaching. You have only heard rumors of their power. You gather your own warriors, who are brave but undisciplined. Then, you see it. On the horizon, a massive black wave of men, tens of thousands strong, moving not as a crowd, but as a single entity. They march in perfect silence, their footsteps a low, menacing rumble on the earth. There are no war cries, no chaotic shouting, just an eerie, disciplined quiet that is more terrifying than any noise. The sheer visual impact of this unified silent mass of warriors was a profound psychological blow. It sent a clear message: you are not facing men, you are facing a force of nature. Then just before the attack, the silence would be broken. The warriors would begin to stamp their feet and beat their shields in perfect unison. The ground itself would seem to shake with the rhythmic, thunderous sound. It was the sound of a giant's heartbeat, a terrifying prelude to the violence that was to come. This sudden explosion of sound, after the unnerving silence, was designed to shatter the enemy's morale. It was a declaration of absolute confidence and power. For the opposing warriors, who were used to disorganized, noisy charges, this display of perfect coordination was something alien and deeply frightening. It made the Zulu army seem like a single, monstrous creature, impossible to defeat. Shaka also used tactics of intimidation and reputation. Stories of his army's ruthlessness were allowed to spread. He would often give a choice to neighboring clans, join the Zulu nation, and become part of its greatness, or be utterly destroyed. Many chose to join without a fight, preferring to be part of this powerful new kingdom than to face its wrath. This strategy allowed him to expand his empire rapidly, with minimal losses. By making an example of those who resisted fiercely, he created a powerful incentive for others to submit peacefully. Shaka's psychological warfare was a key part of his success. He understood that controlling what your enemy thinks and feels is just as important as controlling the battlefield. To understand what drove the great King Shaka, we must look into his heart, to the boy who was once an outcast. His life was a constant struggle to overcome the pain of his past. The rejection he and his mother, Nandi, endured left a deep mark on him. It was a wound that never fully healed, but it was also the source of his unquenchable fire. His ambition was not just a desire for power, it was a deep need to prove his worth, to build a world so strong and secure that no one could ever cast him out again. He was driven to create a legacy that would silence the whispers of his past and shout his greatness to the heavens. The most important person in Shaka's life was his mother, Nandi. She was his anchor, his confidant, and his fiercest supporter. When the world turned its back on them, they had only each other. Nandi was a strong and proud woman, and she instilled in her son a sense of destiny. She told him that he was not defined by the scorn of others, but by the strength within him. Their bond was incredibly deep. In a world that had offered him nothing but rejection, his mother's love was the one constant, unwavering source of support. For her, he would build an empire. He made her the Queen Mother, the Ndlovukazi, or Great She-Elephant, and gave her a position of immense power and respect. Shaka's drive to unify the Zulu people was deeply connected to this personal history. By bringing all of the clans together, he was creating the ultimate family, a massive community where belonging was absolute. In his kingdom, loyalty and service were what mattered, not the circumstances of one's birth. He was, in a way, building the home he never had. Every new regiment he formed, every clan he absorbed into the nation, was another step away from the loneliness of his childhood. He was creating a new social order where the bonds of national identity were stronger than the old lines of clan or family that had once excluded him. His own pain became the fuel for creating a new kind of belonging for an entire people. This inner fire, however, also had a darker side. His desire for absolute security and control could sometimes manifest as extreme ruthlessness. He was determined that his nation would never show weakness, and he demanded the same perfection from his people that he demanded from himself. He saw division and dissent as existential threats, reminders of the chaos that had defined his early life. While his bond with his mother was a source of great strength, his reliance on her was so total that he could not imagine a world without her. This deep love, the very thing that helped forge his kingdom, would tragically become the catalyst for his kingdom's darkest days. In 1827, the unthinkable happened. Nandi, the Queen Mother, the anchor of Shaka's world, died. For Shaka, this was not just the loss of his mother, it was the collapse of his entire emotional universe. The grief that overcame him was not the quiet sorrow of an ordinary man. It was a titanic storm of rage and pain, as immense and overwhelming as the kingdom he had built. He could not control it, and in his despair, he dragged his entire nation down into the depths of his mourning. The man who had built a kingdom on order and discipline now plunged it into a period of chaos and terror, driven by a sorrow so profound it bordered on madness. Shaka decreed a period of national mourning that was terrifying in its intensity. No crops were to be planted, no milk, the staple of the Zulu diet, was to be used. Any woman who became pregnant was to be executed, along with her husband, because Shaka declared that even joy and new life were an insult to his grief. He ordered that thousands of cows be slaughtered so that even the calves would know what it was like to lose a mother. People who were not deemed to be grieving sufficiently were put to death on the spot. His warriors roamed the kingdom, enforcing these brutal decrees. The nation was paralyzed by fear, held hostage by the king's personal agony. This period, known as Ilambo, revealed the dark side of Shaka's absolute power. The discipline he had instilled in his army was now used to enforce his own emotional turmoil. His warriors, bound by their unwavering loyalty, carried out his terrible commands. This extreme reaction to his mother's death began to isolate Shaka from his own people. While they respected his grief, they were also its victims. The kingdom he had built to provide security and unity was now a place of arbitrary death and suffering. His closest generals and his own half-brothers began to watch him with growing fear and concern. The leader who had inspired them with a vision of greatness was now ruling through terror. The king's grief also made him more paranoid and isolated. He felt alone in a way he had not felt since childhood. He saw conspiracies everywhere and trusted fewer and fewer people. The bonds of loyalty he had so carefully built began to fray under the strain. He sent his armies on long, pointless campaigns, perhaps to distract himself from his pain or to get the warriors away from the capital. This period of intense mourning and brutal enforcement lasted for months, weakening the kingdom and sowing the seeds of rebellion. The death of his mother had broken something inside Shaka, and in his pain, he was beginning to break the very nation he had given his life to create. Shaka's reign did not just build a nation, it reshaped the entire map of southern Africa. His military revolution and the rapid expansion of the Zulu kingdom set off a chain reaction, a period of immense upheaval, migration and conflict known as the Mufakani, or the crushing. As the Zulu impis conquered clan after clan, entire communities were displaced. They fled from the path of Shaka's advancing armies, creating a domino effect that was felt for hundreds, even thousands, of miles. These fleeing groups desperate for new lands and resources had to fight for their own survival, spreading the new, more brutal methods of warfare that Shaka had pioneered. From this chaos, new nations were born. Leaders who had either fled from Shaka or learned from him took their people and carved out new kingdoms of their own. A general named Mzilikazi, one of Shaka's most brilliant commanders, had a falling out with the king and led his people, the Kumalo, on a long journey north. They fought their way across the continent, eventually establishing the powerful Ndebele kingdom in what is now modern-day Zimbabwe. They took with them the Zulu military system, the disciplined regiments, the Equispear, and the horns of the buffalo tactic. An entire empire was founded on the model Shaka had created. Another group, led by Soshangane, fled northeast and established the Gaza Empire in modern-day Mozambique. Like Mzilikazi, Soshangane adopted Zulu military structures and tactics to conquer and incorporate local peoples, building a new, powerful state. All across southern Africa, leaders were forced to adapt or be destroyed. Many formed larger, more centralized states and adopted standing armies, copying the model of the Zulu kingdom in order to defend themselves. In this way, Shaka's ideas on military organization and state building spread far beyond the borders of his own empire. The Mufakane was a period of great destruction, but it was also a period of radical creation and political change. The effects of the Mufakane were complex and long-lasting. It cleared vast areas of land, which later made it easier for European settlers, the Voortrekkers, to move into the interior. At the same time, it led to the formation of powerful African states, like the Basotho nation under King Moshoshu, who skillfully used mountain fortresses and diplomacy to defend his people from the chaos. Shaka's impact, therefore, was like a stone thrown into a vast lake. The ripples spread far and wide, touching peoples and places he never saw, creating waves of change that would continue to shape the destiny of southern Africa for generations to come. He was not just a king of the Zulus, he was an engine of history. Every great story has an end, and Shaka's life, which had burned so brightly, was destined to be extinguished by violence. His grief after his mother's death had turned into paranoia and tyranny. He had become a danger to the stability of the nation he had built. His two half-brothers, Dingane and Malangana, along with a trusted servant, began to plot against him. They saw a king who was emotionally unstable and whose unpredictable cruelty threatened them all. In 1828, while most of the army was away on a campaign, they saw their chance. They ambushed Shaka in his royal crawl and ended his life with their spears. The great lion of Africa was dead. His death plunged the kingdom into a brief period of chaos. Dingane seized the throne, but he lacked Shaka's military genius and his deep connection with the army. He ruled through fear and assassination, killing many who were loyal to Shaka's memory. The kingdom, which had been built on merit and unwavering loyalty to a visionary leader, now stumbled under the rule of a suspicious and insecure king. However, the system Shaka had created were too strong to collapse entirely. The Zulu army, the regimental structure, and the powerful sense of national identity all endured. The machine Shaka built was so well designed that it could continue to run, even without its creator. The true proof of Shaka's legacy came 50 years after his death in 1879, at the Battle of Isandlwana. The mighty British Empire, with its advanced rifles and cannons, invaded Zululand, expecting an easy victory. But they were met by a Zulu army that still used the tactics and weapons designed by Shaka. The warriors advanced in the classic horns of the buffalo formation, encircling and overwhelming a modern professional army. It was a stunning victory for the Zulus and one of the greatest defeats in the history of the British Empire. Though the Zulus would eventually be defeated by superior firepower, the Battle of Isandlwana showed the world the enduring power of Shaka's military system. His spirit was still alive on the battlefield. Today, Shaka Zulu is remembered as one of Africa's greatest leaders. His story is a powerful reminder of how a single person's vision and will can forge a nation. It teaches us about leadership, unity, and the courage to overcome hardship. Yes, his reign had its darkness, its cruelty, and destruction. But it also had its light, the creation of a proud, unified people with a shared identity that endures to this day. His life story is not just a piece of history, it is an inspiration. It shows us that even if you start as an outsider, with determination and a belief in something bigger than yourself, you can change the world. The lion's roar may have been silenced, but its echo will live on forever. If you found Shaka Zulu's story as inspiring as we did, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful histories, share this video with friends, and visit our website for even deeper insights into Africa's legendary leaders. Your support helps us keep these stories alive. Join us on this journey.